Well, welcome to SCORE, everybody. This is SCORE Cleveland, and SCORE has the largest network for free volunteer uh, business mentors in the nation. And so no matter what stage your business is in, we have a mentor for you, and we hope that you'll be able to take advantage of that. Uh, Basically, you can easily request a mentor by going to the SCORE website. SCORE's mission, vision, and values are very clear. We want to promote small business. We want small business owners to thrive, and we are focused on forming new businesses, job creation, and wealth building. We empower all entrepreneurs from all walks of life. In 2022, we helped 501 new businesses get started for a total of 808 jobs. Our services are free. All SCORE services are free and confidential. SCORE will never share any information about your business through a SCORE mentor. And all SCORE mentors are volunteers, and all of our services are delivered at no charge. This is the SCORE website. So if you see this, SCORE Cleveland, then you'll know you're in the right place. I'm putting this up for a moment here, so if you have your smartphone available, then you can click on the QR code on the left to bookmark the link for the SCORE homepage. And if you click on the right, you can request a mentor. So with that, I'm going to jump into the presentation. And again, I am going to go at a fairly rapid clip because of the large number of slides, but you are going to get all the slides and you will get a link to the presentation probably sometime next week. I might be slightly delayed because next week's a holiday week, but it will come to you if you are registered and are attending. So we're off to the races. What is capacity building? Capacity building means acquiring the resources that your nonprofit needs in order to fulfill its mission. First of all, kind of a planning refresher. Strategic and business planning really are two sides of the same coin. Planning provides a detailed roadmap and tools to measure your progress and success. Basically, one of the things you'll want to do when you're planning to grow your nonprofit to the next stage is to take another look at your vision statement, your mission statement, and your organizational values, what you believe in. There is also an opportunity for you to identify long-term goals. And one of the things that is a good place to start with is what's called a situation analysis. Where are we now? This means you're looking at your internal weaknesses, your organizational strengths, your opportunities, and external threats. The purpose of developing strategies is how to achieve long-term goals. How do you plan to get there? So basically, key questions for your strategy. What are the real issues that are facing your organization? What do your stakeholders think? Are there opportunities for partnerships? What's your return on investment? If you invest money in a particular direction, will it enhance your mission or will it take you in a direction that is not beneficial to you or your clients? And then also there's the final question you should always ask, what's the worst that can happen? Basically, capacity building strategies fall in 5 broad categories: increasing revenues, recruiting more volunteers if you're a volunteer-led organization, increasing your revenue over time, doing more good work, and increasing productivity. For new programs, you may want that as a strategy. You may want to expand existing programs. You may want to increase your internal operating capacity. You want to increase the number of funders, reduce the risk of relying only a few, and also maybe to create an operating reserve. Where do nonprofits get their revenue? On a broad general scheme of things, about 50% of all revenue comes from fees for services. Another quarter comes from the government, and another quarter comes from philanthropy. Of the amount that comes from donations, 84% or more than 4/5 comes from individuals, and only a very small amount comes from foundations. So keep that in mind. To increase revenue, some of your options are to install or increase your fees, write proposals for grants, conduct an annual fundraising drive, hold an annual fundraising event, make special efforts to develop major donors, and consider planned giving and capital campaigns, especially if you have a building or you need new equipment. So be smart about qualifying your donors. Make sure that your donors are, if you ones you want to spend time with, are capable and willing and interested in providing support. You want to make a database of your potential donors so that you know when you've reached out to them and what they've given you. Um, and basically, another way to approach this in terms of your strategy number two, is recruit more volunteers. If you are a volunteer-based nonprofit, some are not. Some are provide professional services, but they are a nonprofit nevertheless. But some are volunteer oriented. SCORE is a volunteer organization, and almost everything is done by volunteers. We have one or two admins, but everything else is volunteer. So basically, people who volunteer for a nonprofit are passionate about the mission of the nonprofit, which is why your mission statement has to be an attention grabber and really has to convey at a glance what it is your organization is about. And volunteers are some of your best resources, and sometimes they're also a source of funds. So that's something else to keep in mind. 49% of Americans, or half basically, volunteer somewhere, somehow, whether it's sports, community service, through government boards and commissions, or whatever it might be. And they're all unpaid. Why people volunteer? It's because they believe in the organization's cause and a desire to help, and they have a strong sense of community and a desire to participate in that community in a meaningful manner. They also may want to learn a specific skill. They may have a desire to put an untapped skill to use. They're also looking for reward and recognition. Everybody wants to be recognized for what they do, and they want to interact with others. Now that COVID is over, people want to get back in the mix and do what they were doing before and being involved in the community. So how do you recruit volunteers? Well, you can conduct a gap analysis. Where are you missing volunteers? You can make a needs list and use it internally. This is not something you want to put on your website, by the way. And so here's an example of a gap analysis in terms of leadership, looking at the people that are volunteering in your organization. You can see who's got what kinds of strengths, and you also can see where the holes are in terms of where you need more volunteers. Now, this is just a very simple matrix. Obviously, it could be more sophisticated depending on the number of functions that you want to assess. So basically, how do you recruit volunteers? Use personal networks for your staff. Rely on your board and other volunteers. Don't be afraid to reach out to other organizations, especially funders. If you get funding from a foundation or United Way or organizations like it. And you have a written guidebook for volunteers. Kind of let them know when they come on board what's expected of them, what the do's and don'ts of the organization are, where they can get help, who to reach out to if they need assistance, and so forth. Basically, in terms of what volunteers respond to, they respond to persuasion and goodwill. And really, this is a role of leadership to clearly convey to volunteers the mission and values and get the volunteers to align their performance with these expectations. You also might want to ask for a human resource professional to help out because just like in business, where workers have to be aligned with the purpose of the business, in nonprofits, volunteers have to be aligned with the purpose of the nonprofit. Now, in terms of revenue, we talked a little bit earlier about the mix. Philanthropy, we said a minimum of 25% usually. Businesses Businesses are not big on giving money directly to nonprofits. They tend to give it to umbrella organizations like United Way and then let them handle the distribution. Foundations, individuals, and then the government. But fees for service are a major category. And if your organization is in a situation where they can provide fees for service, then that will help you with your revenue paying for things like building rents, keep other expenses, things of that nature, communications, your website, internet, phone, and so forth. Um, Now, no two donors are really alike. You want to spend around 80% of your time and energy on what are called high dollar donors and high prospective donors. And what you want to do is you want to make the case to them of why they should invest in your nonprofit as compared to any others, because like it or not, there are lots of different nonprofits pleading their case, and a high value individual who has a track record of donating to nonprofits will get many different appeals. So the real question is how does yours rise to the top of the heap? You want to set goals for increasing your revenue. Stretch goals certainly are helpful, but don't set unrealistic goals. And basically, in terms of return on investment, in terms of your fundraising, for every 3 or 4 efforts you make to raise a dollar, you're going to get $1. It's that kind of return. It's a lot of work. So it's very important to have an experienced development director doing all this, because if the executive director is doing the development work, then they're not doing mission work. And that's not a trade-off that you want to have. Okay, so basically, this is a way you can qualify your donors. This is a simple matrix. You list the donor, their ability to give, what their interests are, how do you access them, do they have a history of giving, and any side notes. And you do this for all of your prospects. You're qualifying your donors is you have to learn from them. Get feedback from them. Why did they choose your organization? That's very, very important, because this will help you with your pitch to the next donor. And they may only come in for a special event, but if they come in for a special event, you'll want to pitch them for your mission as a whole. Basically, you want to engage their hearts and mind, because they will give money because they're aligning themselves with your cause, your mission, your service, whatever it is that you are doing with your nonprofit. Um, this is what's called a case statement. This is a kind of a formal thing that you want to write down and have it. Some people also call it an elevator speech. But if you have, only a minute or two to talk with a high value donor, you want to have in your head the most significant reasons why this donor would want to give to you, what mission it supports, what the benefits are to the community, and so forth. So that, and you also want to have what are called takeaways or leave behinds, maybe a brochure, maybe a one page or something that they take with them as a reminder of your conversation. Um, the other thing, special events. It's important not to overwhelm the giving community with special events. And so we really want to look at these in terms of 1 or 2 a year, and also look at what did you spend to have the event and how much money did you bring in. Make that evaluation relatively soon after the event, because it will tell you whether or not this is something you want to do again, or if you want to change your approach. Um, Sponsorship is very, very important for special events. And this is an area where you can get businesses to come in, and they may want to sponsor the food. Maybe they want to sponsor part of the event or fees or whatever it might be. It's very important to thank your sponsors afterwards with personal notes. And as I said, if it didn't produce the revenue that you wanted, time to rethink it. Um, we talked about this before. This is what's called an annual fund. And this is, you would send this out once a year to all of your prospects and to all of the people who gave you money the previous years. And keep it simple. Always include for the high givers a handwritten note from the executive director. Dear giver, we really appreciate your support last year for X dollars, whatever it is. Can you increase your giving this year? We really appreciate it. Sincerely yours. That makes a difference. You'll be surprised how much a personal note matters to people because people want to be recognized. From repeat donors, always ask for a specific amount. And so here's an example. For example, your $100 will provide health services for one child for 1 month. You've probably seen this on TV. Environmental groups are good. Save the elephants. If you'll send us $19 a month, we can save one elephant for a year. That kind of thing. It's a tangible outcome for the donation, and people like to see, where the money is going and what it's doing. And that kind of pitch is really helpful. The other thing is for upper level donors, always follow up. People like that are really busy, and your donation request might have been received, might have been looked at, and then they might have put it aside. So a reminder is really helpful. Um, Always try and upgrade your donors from one given category to the next. Go back to lapsed donors once or twice. They don't respond the second time, take them off your list because you're not going to get anything out of them. And the other thing is, it never hurts to have board members reach out to major donors, especially if the board member and the major donor are in the same industry or in the same line of work, because then they have something in common. It helps build relationships. Um, for anyone who's going to be giving more than $5,000 or $10,000, you want to make a pitch in person because that is how you're going to get that kind of funding. And be very specific and identify the benefits to the clients and to the prospect. And keep your visit brief. Try and get in and out in a half an hour or less. Don't try and schedule a long lunch or a dinner or something like that. You just want to go, sit down with them, a cup of coffee, make your pitch, see if they'll say yes or no, and then if they say yes, say thank them and give them the pledge card so they can fill that out. And then when they get the pledge card, you send them a note, and then they'll send you a check, hopefully. All right, annual fund. It's very important when you're reaching out to someone. If they say no the first time, don't take it as a permanent no. This probably means that they didn't resonate, at least initially, with your mission or your pitch, but it never hurts to come back and ask people to reconsider. And always follow up with thank you. Say thank you for hearing me. I understand you're not interested this time. If you change your mind, get back in touch with us, and people will appreciate that. In-kind donations don't generate revenue, but they can replace an expensive item. For instance, a food pantry that delivers picks up food from grocery stores and fast food outlets and so forth had an old truck, and they needed a new truck, and a car dealership made an in-kind donation of a pickup truck to them so that they could continue to do that. Otherwise, that truck would have cost them, $20,000 or $30,000. So that was a really big donation, but it made a huge, huge difference. And those kinds of things come once in a blue moon, but you always want to keep an eye out for them. Other in-kind donations can be office supplies. It can be things that you need to deliver your services, whatever that might be. Typical in-kind donations. Here's a list. Professional services. Your accountant might be willing to help you by waiving some of his or her fee as an in-kind donation. And if you have specialized services that you're using, you can always ask for that. And people say, no, hey, I need my fees. And fine, that's it. You'll look for your in-kind donations somewhere else. So basically, strategic objectives. This is kind of a nice little picture here that talks about how to focus on the customer, doing more good work. And these represent the kinds of things that really matter. Empowering the front line is given equal weight here, but I got to tell you, the people who are in the front line, who face your clients day in, day out, that's where the rubber meets the road. And the impressions that people get about your organization will come first and foremost from those experiences. So you want to make a major investment in the volunteers or paid staff or both who are meeting your clients to make sure that they have the resources to do the job, that they're fully trained, and that you're assessing their performance over time so that you know that your clients or your customers or however you want to qualify them, that they're getting the right service, the right product, the right support, whatever it might be. Because unfortunately, in this world, you can have 20 years of attaboys, and it takes only one, oh my goodness, that went wrong, to undercut a lot of your good work. So you really got to keep an eye on that. Don't discount that for a minute because it's really important. Um, Another thing is reducing turnover of clients that are a fit. If people leave and try and find out why, they may be reluctant to tell you, but if someone's been a steady client over a period of time and a prospect for being more, and one day they just send you a note, hey, I'm leaving, you need to find out what happened because something went south there and you need to dig into it. And again, this comes back to the issue of your frontline people. On the other hand, some people will finish up the services they need and they say, thank you, I'm done. I got everything I wanted. I really appreciate it. Send them a thank you note. We appreciate being of service. If you ever need us again, just let us know. Never hurts to leave behind like that. Is there a better or more effective way to deliver your product? This is a little formula here. I don't want to get into the math or anything, but it shows you an idea about how to think about it. Productivity is always people want to know what is the productivity. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but you really want to know how people are spending their time and whether, they're getting the job done. That really is what productivity is all about. We discussed strategic planning. We identified 5 areas to explore how to increase capacity, increase revenue, recruiting more volunteers, getting donations, and doing more good work and increasing productivity. So now we're going to talk about skills and implementation. Whoops, come back. There we go. All right, skills. These are a couple of things that you want to be doing as a nonprofit. These are organizational skills. These are not the skills of your individual performing staff or volunteers. As a manager, as the CEO, or as a supervisor in a nonprofit, your focus is going to be on creating alignment with the people doing the work, with the focus of the organization, leading by example, managing. The word coaching should probably be in here as well, but managing, really, the analogy to that is coaching. Publishing relentlessly. You've got to be telling your story through social media, through the regular news media, through newsletters to your clients and to the community as a whole, and then building alliances with other service organizations. And this has to be going on continuously. You never want to neglect these things. So basically, oh, here we do have coaching. So there you go. So basically, this is kind of creating alignment. It's a kind of a staircase, starting at the bottom with vision, values, and mission, the business plan, the policies that flow from them, job descriptions and hiring practices, performance plan and coaching, incentives for performance, measuring behavior, and then, of course, rewards and consequences. Never discount the need for rewards of various kinds for your frontline people. This can, if they're volunteers, they don't expect money, but they probably expect rewards. And sometimes it'd be little things, like a $5 gift card for Dunkin' Donuts, or it can be a certificate of appreciation, held an annual dinner for the volunteers and give out certificates of appreciation, and publicize it so people get their names in the paper. Whatever it is you think might work, but never neglect recognizing, especially your volunteers. So being an effective advocate, always use facts and data, tell success stories, recognize your contributors, never neglect the numbers. Numbers tell stories, and always have the numbers in your annual report. And it is important to have an annual report that goes out to people who've made donations to tell us progress. And you want to be always doing outreach to all the different stakeholders that you have in your organization with written material, with phone calls, email, whatever it might be. You want to create a culture of openness. It's very important that you do that. Hang on a second, my cord just came out. Yeah, always very important that you do that and motivate everyone and seek help. Be willing to change. Sorry about the change in volume there. My cord from my microphone came out of the container there. All right, so be willing to help, be open, be willing to change. Uh, Communicate your strategic plan, hold people accountable, organize teams where practical, communicate organization results. I talked about this earlier, management by walking around. Always be out of your office. If you're a executive director or a senior manager and you're in your office all the time, you're missing critical information about how your organization is doing. Get out of the office, go meet people, organize informal lunches, listen and learn. One organization I know had a lunch that called Rants and Raves. And it was really hair down, anything goes. If there's something that's bugging you, tell us now. If something you like, tell us now. But this is an opportunity for people to talk with senior management directly and tell them what's going on. So I really like it. It's called Rants and Raves Luncheons, and it's a great idea. Celebrate success. Okay, sometimes people don't respond to all the coaching in the world, and they get in a snarl and they get tied up in their socks or whatever. You got to deal with these people immediately, and either, especially from the front line, you have to take whatever corrective action is most meaningful. And there's a variety of things you can do, including them getting them out of that position, having them leave the organization, giving them more training, and then sending them back, whatever the corrective action is. But don't let a problem hang around. Always, when you spot a problem, get on top of it because it won't go away on its own. Um, Publicity. Okay, capture the power of persistent publicity. Monthly publications are helpful to your staff, to your donors, and to your clients. Publicize these three things: your mission, your goals, your success stories, and how you're doing. How did you do last month? How are you going to be doing this month? Um, Always be communicating. Um, Other organizations, don't be shy about serving on industry committees. If there's a trade association or professional association that's in your community with other like-minded organizations, join and put your a little elbow grease into it and get known for being a contributor to the community, not only through your organization, but through the professional association. Plus, it's a great way to meet people, get lessons learned, find out what's going on in your industry. Highly valuable. It will also help you find out about grants. And it will get you ideas of what other services you might want to offer or what services you might want to stop offering. So keep that in mind. Um, you can also get donations of space, equipment, and supply. You might get client referrals. And it builds your credibility to be seen in the community that way. Okay, implementation. Hmm, let's talk about that. Decide where you are really going to plant your flag. Where is the greatest need in your community? What's going to make the biggest difference? And how can you take that story and tell it to your major contributors so that they can do more for your nonprofit? Um, One of the things you might want to think about doing, assuming your organization is large enough, is create what's called a capacity building strategy team that does all the things we talked about in terms of strategic planning and pulls together specific strategies and develops implementation measures to turn strategies into actions. Uh, it doesn't hurt to have a 3-year time horizon with growth goals set for each year. These numbers are just notional. Doesn't mean that you would take these numbers at face value. Set the numbers that make sense for your organization. This is a little acronym that will help you remember called SMART. It's taken from the world of project management, and basically objectives that you set coming out of your strategy are specific, they're measurable, they're action oriented and achievable, they're realistic, and they're timely. And all those values work together. In fact, this is one of the best slides in the whole deck. So just keep an eye out for that when you get the slides. Okay, now action plans. This is basically how you would set up accountability sessions, how you would set goals for the following month, and how you would status the implementation of plans. It's very important if you set a plan with an action goal, not to wait till the end of the year to see if it made any sense. You at least want to have a quarterly review of everything you're doing to assess performance. And if there is an issue, to be able to formulate a corrective action to fix it. If you wait till the end of the year, it's too late. So at least quarterly reviews, if that can work for you. If you're a much larger organization, monthly probably makes more sense because you have much more going on. And by larger, I mean with a budget of more than $5 million a year. Organizational assessment, we talked about a SWOT earlier, but I'm going to come down to this bottom bullet here. Do an annual review and assessment. In addition to your quarterlies, do an annual review, and you probably want to do this after your fiscal year closes so that you have numbers from your financials to see how things went. And you really want to go through just about everything and see how do we do, pluses and minuses. A plus is something that went well. A delta means this is an area that you need change. Delta is a name for make a change. So you can make a big chart. Pluses on the left side, deltas on the right. And then at the end of the day, you can look at them and you can assign the deltas to specific people to take action to develop and take corrective actions or make it whatever change. But this way, and then you track the deltas over time to see if they close or not, or if whoever's working on it needs more help or more resources or whatever it needs to leverage that to closure. This is wrapping up here. This is the SCORE website. And so basically, I'm going to now tell you you'll get a survey within 24 hours asking for your feedback. So please respond. It helps us improve our programs. And so now we have some questions in the chat. I'll take the first one, Q&A. Yes, you will receive the slides after the presentation. They will come to you probably next week, or it might be the week after because next week is a holiday weekend. Holiday week, but we will get them to you. So next week to 10 days, you will get all the slides and you'll get a link to this video. And let's see if we got a chat here. Chat. Yes, you're going to receive the slides after the presentation. So both of those are there. Here's another Q&A. Oh, okay. Thank you. You're welcome. And let's see what else we got here. Any guidance on setting up estate planning help? Group of most and leave donations in the will. This is something your development director should be developing. It's called legacy giving. And what it means is that in their will, they allocate a specific amount of money or resources like stock or whatever it might be to your nonprofit when they pass and their estate is settled. It's very important that a lawyer be involved with this because the will is a legal document, and believe it or not, the heirs will look at this very closely to see if grandma or grandpa gave away the store or if they're not getting anything, because then they might contest it. But if it's in writing in the will and the will is valid, then you'll get the resources. So very important. It's called legacy giving, needs a lawyer, and you and the lawyer and the person who wants to do the legacy giving and their will need to sit down together and get it in writing. So your development director needs to do that. Is there a place to find links to previous? Yes, the SCORE website. Go to scorecleveland.org. And you will, under community resources, you will find links and summaries to all of our webinars. Minimize this and close that. Okay, which of these principles apply to a church and what is different and unique about a church? Church is a nonprofit like any other. And will function like any other. For a church, of course, it's the number of parishioners who pay dues, the number of parishioners who can't afford their dues and need giving in order to support their costs, the money that's needed for the church and its sanctuary, and so forth. It's the same formula as any other nonprofit. Just that the things that you're measuring and the things that you're funding are different. Getting good board members that will work is critical. How to best find them and then convince them. One of the ways you can look for board members is look out what industry you're in. Let's suppose that you're in the world of social work, and you're doing counseling for drug and substance abuse. There's probably a professional association in that field, and also people in academia and in government agencies who are working in this field. And what you want to do is go out and find thought and opinion leaders in the profession and approach them and say, look, we have this nonprofit, we're working on drug and substance abuse, and we need people to give us guidance because we're a growing nonprofit, and we really need to understand how to align with current trends and treatment, and would you come and provide pro bono advice. Also on your board, very important to have two people with the following expertise: an accountant who understands nonprofits and has experience working with nonprofits, because you will have to file a tax return with the state of Ohio and the IRS to show that all of your financial operations are consistent with your nonprofit status. And also to help you with the tax eligibility of giving. And you also need an attorney because you will have regulatory issues, especially if you're in the health field or the education field. So look out for that. And keep an eye on those two seats. Boards should not have people who are your close personal friends, alumni, chums from school, or relatives, because that's a really quick way to ruin those relationships. People on your board should have an objective view and not have a personal relationship with you through those other channels. So that would be a good way to get boards. Let's see what's next. Do you always have a board member lead a strategy? It depends on how big your organization is and whether you want to allocate different functions. For instance, one way that is very important for a board is to have someone who is knowledgeable in the area of information technology. What areas that nonprofits tend to neglect is investments in it. They get a bunch of laptops, everybody gets a laptop, and they're off to the races, and 2 or 3 years later, things start breaking and nobody has a clue how to get them fixed or what to do. And they don't even know if they've bought the right equipment. If you have somebody on the board who understands IT, then they can give advice to the executive director, who probably has deep subject matter expertise on the mission of the nonprofit, but probably knows relatively little about computers. So that's one area. Another area that you want to have a board member lead on, if you're a big enough organization and you have a paid executive director, is you want a compensation committee. Probably 2 or 3 people who review the performance of the CEO and set their compensation. So that's another area. And then finally, you probably want to have a couple of people on the board who are focused on development because of their background. So those are some examples of how you might specialize the roles of your board members. How do you deal with an executive director that's difficult to work with? It's their baby. You know, it's always a problem if the person at the top isn't taking advice from people working from them. And really, unfortunately, the reality is, the only thing you can control is your response to their behavior. And you have 2 things: you can live with it, or you can find somewhere else to work. Because if you banged your head against the wall more than a few times and nothing's changed, then the definition of insanity is to do that again. It's time for you to make a change. And I'm sorry to say, quite frankly, and I don't mean to be blunt about it, but you're in a situation where you probably need to live with it or leave. And there's no sugarcoating that. How do you find donors and grants that will fit your organization? One of the things you can do is you can go to the Cleveland Public Library and you can look up directories of foundations and which are categorized by what kind of giving they do. And foundations fall in 2 broad categories: those which solicit and receive grants, and give grants like Cleveland Foundation. And those which are private, these are usually family foundations, and they deal with a specific disease or some other mission like a park or cultural center, and they don't give out money. The other thing is you want to look at the major giving organizations in your community. In the Cleveland area, you have the United Way, you have the Cleveland Foundation, you have Catholic Charities, you have the Jewish Federation, and I think there are several other major foundations. If you can go to the library and you can look up in a publication called Cranes, Crains. They publish a directory of giving organizations, and you can then go look at their websites and see which ones give money to your cause or your mission. Those are the people you want to approach for funding. As far as government grants are concerned, you need to have the ability to be a recipient of a government grant, which is 501c3 status, and you will need to have a number of other factors that are associated with qualifying for government grants. If you're a very small organization, government grants probably will require an enormous amount of work relative to your size. So you might want to think about where you want to spend your time. We are a small church in terms of members. Meeting in a large church building, which is old, it might be costly to repair. Currently, the building maintenance eats up our budget, but building has historic significance. How do we move forward? Well, one of the things you might be able to do is can you get it on the National Register of Historic Places? That would be the first thing. If it qualifies for that, then you can reach out to organizations that give grants for preservation of buildings that are on the National Register. If you can't do that, then maybe what you want to do is organize a capital funding campaign and seek large donors who have an interest in the building because of its historical significance. So a large capital campaign might be the next answer. So those are two possibilities. Let me go over here in the chat because I have been looking at that. How do we approach different organizations for donations? You basically, as I mentioned in the slides, you need to find out whether or not the business or organization has an interest in your mission and your vision. And this means that there's some likelihood that they would be interested in what you're doing. And this requires research on your part. And again, I mentioned going to the library and doing some research so that you can find out who might be giving, have a history of giving. For instance, the United Way publishes an annual report, and they list everybody that they gave money to. This tells you what their priorities are and whether or not you could approach them for funding. If they give funding to organizations that do what you do, maybe there's a chance for. If they don't, maybe they might change their mind. Either way, it's no harm in asking. Thank you for your presentation. You're quite welcome. Let's see what else is here. There's anything else coming in. All right. Well, we have more time for Q&A, so if you have more questions, let's bring them on. Okay, I just want to make one more call for questions, if there are any. If not, let me wrap up here by saying that I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming. You will get the slides. You will get a link to the video. Those will go out hopefully next week. And if you want a SCORE mentor, here's another question. Any suggestions for follow-up on pitching to prospective donors? Contact information. Basically, I'm a presenter here. If you want a SCORE mentor on the area of nonprofits, go to the SCORE website and request a mentor. And then we have a team that looks at each request and then they assign its mentors. Currently, we have about 100 people in the Cleveland area who are mentors. So they try and balance the workload. What size of a nonprofit warrants having a professional development director? Quite frankly, any size. And the reason I say this, let me give you an example. If you're an executive director and you are spending 50% of your time raising funds, you're going to be spending another 20% of your time on administrative and administrivia, which means for every dollar that you bring in, you're only getting 30 cents of performance. On the other hand, if you have a development director, you now are going to be getting 80 cents of performance for every dollar you bring in. So it is absolutely in your interest as soon as possible to acquire the services of a development director. Otherwise, your 30 cents worth of performance, quite frankly, isn't going to make the same difference as 80 cents worth of performance for every dollar you bring in. So the answer is, when is it possible? At what size? The answer is as soon as possible. I'm in Iowa. Getting a mentor here has been a nightmare with SCORE. Ouch. I'm sorry to hear that. All right. Go to the SCORE Cleveland site. We'll take someone from anywhere in the country and request a mentor. And we'll be happy to assist you. We are not shy about where our clients come from. And if you want to come to Cleveland, we'd love to have you. So go to SCORE Cleveland and request a mentor there. And I'm sorry to hear about Iowa. And hopefully you have much better experience with Cleveland. Let's see, you got anything else over here? Yeah, any mentors? Are there any mentors to start a nonprofit? Well, we have a webinar, believe it or not, called "Are You Ready to Start a Nonprofit?" And you want to go look at that webinar. I think it'd be very helpful because it takes you through the steps of starting a nonprofit, getting 501(c) status, getting your funding, getting yourself set up, and it asks you the question if your readiness. It's kind of a qualification process because you really need to look at what commitments need to be made in order to do that. So take a look at that webinar. It's called "Are You Ready to Start a Nonprofit?" It's on the SCORE Cleveland website. You read Peter Drucker's book, Managing a Nonprofit. Any of the books that you recommend? Yeah, hang on a second while I step away from my computer. I'll get a couple of titles for you. Okay, I don't want to overwhelm people with textbooks, so I'm going to give you two books that are relatively inexpensive. You can get them on Amazon. The first one is full of charts and worksheets and ways for you to kind of test your ideas. It's a workbook, not a textbook. It's called The One-Page Business Plan for Nonprofit Organizations. It is by Jim Horan, Horan, and you can get it on Amazon. Uh, and then the Nonprofit Business Plan, A Leader's Guide to Creating a Successful Business Model. There's four authors. David LaPiana, Lapiana, is the author. And again, that is the Nonprofit Business Plan. And both of these are available on Amazon. They're less than around 25 bucks a piece. So for an ad hoc nonprofit with no structures, anything you can think about. Yeah, start with Jim Horan's book. Jim Horan, again, I'm going to repeat that, The One-Page Business Plan. It's full of worksheets and workbooks, and it'll help you think through, if you're starting from scratch, what you need to do and help you get your thoughts down on paper. So I'm going to recommend that one. Put the name of the book in the chat. Sure, let me do that. To everyone. Here we go. Hang on a second. Okay, so I put the names of the two books in the business plan in the chat. So please take a look at that. Uh, yes, the development director handles fundraising and capital campaigns, anything that brings in money. You know, scores, Oaks and workshops on for market. Yes, uh, we do have that. The other thing is that uh, let me just do something here. I'm going to get you a link to an organization that's very good for that. So hang on a second. Let's bring this down here. Um, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So you're going to see me now. So let me minimize this and close this. Okay, I'm going to give you an organization, put this in the chat. It's called N10, and they are really going to be very helpful to you. Let me get the chat back up and put the link in. All right, N10 is an organization that has all kinds of resources about technology and social media for nonprofits. So I'm going to refer you to them. They're probably a lot better at this than anything that SCORE has. So I'm not afraid to tell people, hey, you know, these guys have the expertise, so go there. Let's see if there's anything else in the Q&A. Okay, we answered that one. I'll bring my face up here, but I'll move this over here. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to wrap this up now. Again, if you need a mentor on nonprofits or for-profit business, go to SCORE Cleveland. If you just put SCORE Cleveland, you're going to get Guardians baseball statistics. So make sure you say .org, and that'll be helpful for you. All right, so I'm going to end this now. Thank you very much. Have a great day. If you're in the Cleveland area, watch out for the rain. If you're somewhere else, I hope the weather's better.